I'm starting off, I'm going to make a Worthington scroll saw clock using my scroll saw here for my daughters Cynthia and Jared's wedding that's coming in this December. It's August 22nd or 23rd today, and so I'm going to start out. I just cleaned my scroll saw off. I've got the lights turned on, ready to go. I've printed the first pattern piece out. And so I'm going to take off and try to shoot some video while I'm doing this, and then I can also give the video to them. Okay, this is the first piece we're going to cut out tonight, and this is the very lowest section of the scroll saw clock, and I printed it out on a laser printer. I'm going to cut it out. First we're going to take some scissors, we're going to cut around the outside of the pattern, and then I'm going to spray some adhesive onto it. It's kind of a spray glue type stuff, but what happens is if you only spray it on one side, it'll stick to the wood, but then you can peel it off later. And so that's what we're going to do here. So we'll get it turned over, cut out, and then go from there. So we're going to go ahead and cut this out. And I'll just trim around it here along the sides. Yeah, I haven't made one of these clocks now. It's been about a year since I started working on it, on different clocks and stuff, so I really need to get going again and playing with my scroll saw. You know, I just get other things going, and so I made one of these for Darren and Shayla when they got married for a wedding present, and so keeping in tradition here, gotta go ahead and make another one. Okay, that's cut out. Whoops, maybe got a little bit too close there. I'll just cut that. We'll just know better. Okay, here I found a piece of wood that I'm going to use to put this piece on. I like to keep the grain going up and down like this with it not crosswise or other stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to use these areas over in here and here for something else. And it's really rough. I was just going to draw the little outline around it right now so I know where to cut, and then we'll go ahead and sand it on there. So let's trace around that. Okay, let's go ahead and trace this around. So I'm kind of left-handed, so hopefully my hand's not getting away, but we're just going to draw like an outline here. And just go right around here. Then we're going to go ahead and cut it out. We'll switch over here, go around this. Okay. So now we got that. Let's just go ahead and fire this up. We'll do some cutting here. See how this thing works. Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. Got that piece cut out. And now the next step,
Well, one of the first things to point out is I looked at the wood and it's kind of bowed this way a little bit, and so I wanted that down on the bottom. That'll make it easy to spin it. So before I glue the pattern on here, I'm going to go ahead and sand it down a little bit, and then I'm going to spray the back of the pattern, and then we'll put the pattern right on this. And then at that point we'll have to go ahead and drill a lot of little holes in there just so that we'll be able to thread the blade in, and we'll get to that bit in a little bit. Okay, I'm using a Festool sander here. It's the Rotex sander, and we have a hose hooked up to it. We've got a air cleaner over here, so that makes it so it's not too dusty. So we're basically just trying to smooth that out so that we'll be able to glue the pattern onto it. So that's the next step here. So we'll get the pattern, get some glue on it, and then glue it on here, and then we'll be able to drill the holes. Okay, I usually just put a piece of cardboard down here. We're going to get this glue and spray some of the glue onto this. Whoops. See if that even looks like I'm getting low on this glue. I have to go buy some tomorrow. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now we'll just let that sit for a minute. And then we'll go ahead and glue this onto the other piece, onto the piece of wood there. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes, so the glue is kind of tacky on here. And like I said before, we don't spray this part here with any glue, otherwise you never get it off. Okay, so now we got to lay this thing right down on here, and then we're going to cut this part out. So we'll just put it down there. That looks good right about there. Okay. Okay, now the next step is everywhere there's an X, that's where we're going to have to thread the blade through to cut those parts out. And so we're going to have to go ahead and drill over at the drill press and drill all those X's out. Okay, here we are at the drill press. We're going to start drilling some holes here. Yeah, now we got to look and make sure we got all of them drilled out. Okay, make sure they're all there, drilled out. Okay, 3 there and 2 there, and then we got one over in the corner here. And we use this one when we go around to start cutting the edge. Okay, now that we got all the holes drilled, we got to sand the back side because it's kind of rough. So I want to smooth that up again, knocking these little pieces of wood down so it turns and slides really easy on the scroll saw. Okay, now I guess we're ready. So for the next long time now, we're going to be doing this procedure. We loosen that up, we undo the blade, we thread it through a hole like that. We then pull this back down until it's touching. We then tighten this up like this, and then we tighten that up and we're ready to go. And then we bring that down there, and let's see, here we go. I'm going to try to find a place where it's not vibrating too much. There we go, right about there. And you'll notice that every time I get to a point right there, I swing all the way around, and that's so I can make a nice sharp edge on the point. One down, a bunch to go. So, Well, that's done, so here we go. Take that out. So now we've got to take this paper off, and that's kind of tricky, but the one trick I learned how to do is use a heat gun, so we're going to go do that next. Okay, we got the little heat gun here. This thing works really good. It's the gun was made to use for building radio-controlled airplanes and shrinking the monocoat, which is a covering that you usually put over the wings and stuff like that. And so it's kind of like a heat shrink plastic. But I found that if I crank this on, whoops, let's, Okay, the next phase here is once we've got the paper off, it's still got glue, it's really sticky. You don't really want to take a sander to it, and you can sort of see dust collecting right there. So the next trick is you use these big rubber eraser looking things. This was made to clean off a belt sander or a sanding disc like that, but I found that it works really good removing the glue. So we just take this and we start working on it like this, and the glue comes off, and you can see it just kind of starting to build up on the eraser itself here. You can feel where it's not smooth, where the glue's still at, so we just have to work it over with this. Pull some of the crap off there. Okay, that's smooth pretty much. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to sand this glue off, and this thing works so much better. And there's another chunk of the glue. You can see it just kind of rolls it up in a ball. Just catches it on the end of that. Works really dang good. Okay, let's go right across the top there. And I believe that's about got it. Okay, now we'll plug the sander back in. We'll use the sander here for a minute, finish it off. So, okay. And I believe we're using what's the grit on this thing? We're using 120 grit paper, so just enough to smooth it out. That's about basically all we have to do. This piece is done, and we're going to move on to the little shelf that fits up here, and then there's 2 brackets that mount and hold the shelf up. So that's the next project here.